Hi, Elliot. Oh. Yeah, I was here.
Peter, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well.
Thanks for spending some time with it. I think that starts to help to show some, curving and stuff going on there. It's kind of cool. And that varies the ramp too, doesn't it? Is that where the ramp is in the curved walk?
Yeah, there was a spur that came off of the entryway off North Ave that Chris had, where the ramp, where he put the ramp. Then there was a connecting. Let me spun my drawing here. There's a ramp connecting over. Oh, I still have that. But then I substituted the horizontal ramp that was parallel with the building with that arced ramp.
Yeah.
We also have access from down at your other two buildings as well. So it sort of makes a nice presentation as far as, coming up a little ramp, walking between some vegetation, and you get the to experience the facade of the building as well while walking up to the front entrance.
Agreed. I think people walking back from the bus or coming out from the train could sit out there, hang for a little bit before they go in. I think that's the way you're going to see that actually get used.
Actually, that's a good idea. Maybe put a little a bench out there, maybe a little right off of the pathway.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to do that, especially under those trees. But Peter, I did not want to. I actually was looking for some feedback prior to this, so I didn't want to cover your building up, and I didn't know if you had certain.
Well, they're looking for you to as much as you can. Yeah. But what I think we can do is after today, because you'll see we've been jamming with different colors and facades and all that. So I think we can have a meeting on the side and talk about some.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Just I don't know how familiar you are with the lake, but it's constant. The movement of people at that is constant every day.
Movement of people at the other buildings, or
where? No, just around the lake. The movement.
Oh, around the lake. Oh, yeah.
Around the lake is thousands, right?
So we did the Tarrant Lane ZBA. We had those hearings at town hall, and we must have had, at least I was part of it, probably 7 or 8 of them. And every time you go down, there would just be throngs of people circulating around.
No, it's true. It just, going to the sites of 596 and 598 and 600 walking during construction, see the number of people that move there.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, right?
It is, yeah.
But our building will be appreciated now as well, because everyone will see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I see Jim is on.
Behave yourself.
Trying to be good. It's not easy.
Hi, Jim.
There you are.
Hey, folks.
Hello.
Tom,
How you doing?
all right. We haven't quite got everybody yet.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to leave the camera off if that's okay, but I can see y'all. I'm in a car.
Oh, I thought maybe it was a grooming problem.
No, you can see I'm really here. Seems distracting. I'm not driving or anything.
Oh, okay.
Good, everybody.
Hello,
Yeah,
Jesse.
Jesse.
All right, I guess we pretty much got everybody. With that, I will ask Tom to read the dissertation we have to do with this.
Yeah.
So this is a meeting of the working group, the zoning working group for the project at 596 North Avenue. So with that, Tom?
Yep.
you're up.
Okay, consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and or listen to the meeting in real time. If you do not have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the following dial-in number: 1-301-715-8592, meeting ID 838-7120-1157, passcode 724-840. Please only use dial-in or computer and not both, as audio feedback will distort the meeting. This meeting will be audio and video recorded. In compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, this location is accessible to people with disabilities. Wakefield provides reasonable accommodations and or language assistance free of charge upon request. If you are a person with a disability and require information or materials in an alternative format, or if you require other accommodation, please contact the town's disability coordinator, William Renault, town engineer at 781-246-6308, as far in advance of the event as possible. Every effort will be made to grant your request. Advanced notification will enable the town to make reasonable arrangements to remove an accessibility barrier for you.
Thank you, Tom. So let me go over a few things as we start this meeting. We have covered sort of the massing and the site pretty much, dealing with both the wetlands area, at least within the range that we have some control over, basically. At the same time, I'm assuming basically Chris is working behind the scenes with the DPW to straighten out some things, or at least clarify some things that he's got with the DPW, particularly related to drainage. And at the same time, I think, given what Peter's done recently with the width of the building, probably has helped Chris solve his problem with the ramping, which I assume will be worked out further with the landscaper as well. Having said all that, as just noted here, that Peter has changed the design slightly in the width. So now we're at a place where basically we're going to deal with the breakdown of the massing on this building and how we basically make it more fitting to the neighborhood, and along with the texture and appearance of this. I don't want to get into colors really so much as I want to get into how we break this building down. And with that, I'm going to start basically just to show some images basically as to what this looks like, if I can get it, if I can get this to come up. I might not be able to. Not seeing basic advanced. I don't know. This meeting is being recorded.
Some kind of feedback.
Does anybody see that?
Now, Jim was still,
Nope.
Was oh, goody. All right. I don't seem to be able to get up what I want to do.
Is that the stuff that we looked at earlier today, Jim?
No, it was the 3D modeling basically of the site, which I was trying to get up here. I've got it on my screen. I just seem to not be able to get it up to everybody else. And I don't want to waste everybody's time.
No, if maybe, Steve, I know you're listening in the background. You remember we looked at the 3D modeling? Do we have it that we can share? Maybe from email?
Yeah, let me look back and see if I can find it. Just bear with me real quick.
I think I have a copy of it too, if you can't find it, Steve.
Yeah, Jesse's got it as well.
Yeah. I found it, Jim. The share screen button says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, let me get back up on that one. I seem to have lost myself here.
Sometimes it can just be like a hidden window is under something if you slide your windows around a bit.
Yeah, no, I just got you speaking. From the car. Got other things coming up too. I got some other things sort of popping up here for some reason or other.
Getting the Zoom ad, I'm getting a Zoom ad.
You what?
A Zoom ad for other, what does it say? Zoom demonstration.
I've lost myself. Oops, I'm back, finally. Okay, who's sharing? Who do I need to give share to? Oops, wait a minute, I got it. Maybe I got it. Everybody see that?
Mr. Jim, before you go, Mr. Lopez, you're on there twice, and I think that feedback's coming from
Okay,
you.
hold on a second. You shut one off.
That seemed to solve it.
We can definitely see the sharing now, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Feedback's
Yep.
gone. Thank you.
all right, so this is a neighborhood at this point, and this is the project. And this is based on the latest information, basically. And so what we're dealing with is we got to deal with the surrounding elements, basically, here. We talked about it, you know, the wetlands. So the green is the wetlands. We talked a little bit, and this will be landscape for later, but somehow burying this as much in the trees as possible. But you get a sense of scale for this at this point, trees running along the front. But we have this big blank wall that we're gonna have to deal with because it will be pretty predominant basically in this thing. The parking, as we've talked about, basically, and the recess in the back because it pushes the front ahead. and this is the rear, basically. So this is Chris's layout at this point, the most recent. And at the same time, the most recent from Peter. And I pulled it way over to the edge on this side as opposed to the other side. So you can just see here, Chris has put a ramp in here, and we're going to need all that real estate basically to make this work for him. So that building is basically pushed to the left. So having said all that and shown this at this point, we should go on from there basically. And Peter, I guess you're going to have to pick up from here.
Yep.
And move forward. And I guess I'm going to have to give you access. And you've got it.
Okay. Yeah. Share. So I put this up because this is where what we last had, even though we really never discussed it. I know we shared it with you, Jim, at one point after the ZBA meeting. Discussions came up about the brick in the center, the bay windows, the roofs, the windows right and left. And we kind of took this as a beginning point to say, well, what can we do now? Looking at some imagery of the neighborhood and also some imagery that you were sharing with us, Jim, in terms of how to move the building forward and hopefully break it down a little bit more on the facade. So in this packet, right, it's more of a compilation of where we've been. You saw this the other night at zoning, our footprint shrinking. We have since gone ahead and adapted our floor plans first, second, and third. So now they are at the reduced width of the building, make sure the units fit. Those are now updated. But I don't think we need to talk about those right now. Nothing's changed unit count wise.
No, I think the board has accepted the mix at this point, and our direction now is to move ahead with the architecture.
So one thing we were looking at in the last couple of days was what if we changed the center to a different kind of brick, more of a gray brick, and then breaking it down with greens and then more tan. So again, similar facade, but different use of materials and color. And I know that we've talked about whether there should be brick there at all. So we went ahead and did a little bit more thinking, and we came up with this concept. I'm going to point out right up front that the top of the highest point in this roof is 1 foot higher than the parapet of this roof. So literally 1 foot above that. I would say almost imperceivable, from North Avenue, but these are hips. If I can zoom in on that, you'll see that, and it's hard to see when it's out. Let's see if it'll show. You can see here, there's a hip and a hip. It's a broken hip where that bay is. And I know when you back out, you can't see that anymore. But here we started to talk about vertical siding and a more traditional yellow color. And then we're using a lighter gray or off-white in these other parts of the building, trying to get more like almost what we try to do at Crescent, but a series of buildings stepping down North Avenue so that 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the infill in between. We also just thought we would explore that idea of doing a porch across the front with some pillars and kind of wrap this whole area so it's larger and more inviting than what the entry was before. Plus, it's more residential. So we spent a fair amount of time developing this facade, and then we tried it again and we reversed our color scheme just to see what it would do if we did it the other way and brought the vertical in the lighter colors and the more traditional yellow in the background. Also started, like you have said, about thinking ahead of when we wrap this yellow. There's a lot of wall on the left here. And I would suggest that as we develop that wall, we're going to want to break it down as well. So it's not totally flat, whether it means bumping sections out 6-8 inches above, helps us with the roof line too. So that's what we've been working on the last few days. And the intent.
Can you flip it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. With the intent of having it here so that we can now start to discuss, is this a better direction? Can we develop this even if we can further? Does it need more breakdown in the facade? Should we reintroduce false balconies again? I'm kind of throwing things out as I thought of them.
Well, it's certainly, Tom, you can speak up too. Don't let me override you. I certainly like the fact that there's some sort of, even though it's more ceremonial in this particular location.
Yeah.
Is the front basically having this grand entry, and even the fact that the upper unit or just over that grand entry comes forward basically to some degree, and we'll have to look at that in plan. I'm not sure whether, the flip and flop as far as the color, what one's better. Really, I mean, it's each one's got their own character, but I like the fact that there are these sort of like, at least in a more modern sense, towers on either side of the entry, and playing down the far sides might be the appropriate thing, particularly since we want the center to accent itself and to project itself, and the rest of it basically on either side to be hidden behind more trees or something like that to mimic what's there today. So I like the direction. Tom, your thoughts?
No, I do too. I think this has to transition, I think, from those other two buildings and the office park into a more residential feel. So I like the balconies and stuff. I think that tells you it's a residential building when you see it. It's not one way or another, but I'll just throw that in there. I think they're good amenities for people too. So
Yeah.
throw that out there.
I guess, yeah, but if you remember back, there were some people neighbors who didn't like balcony because people were going to look into their backyard or something. At least that was the commentary. And maybe some of the units towards the back or to the side maybe have balconies, and particularly on the sides, to break the elevations up some. But having no balconies in the front, I would have to see the balconies to say whether I was for it or against it. But at the moment, I like what I see, and without the balconies, quite frankly, and weighing it a little bit with neighbors' comments at the same time.
Yeah.
So these are what, 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms, right? So maybe it's the 3 bedrooms that get the amenities, or some of the 2 bedrooms on the edge that get the amenities off to the right and left, which are not really looking into backyards. That might
right? Break down these facades right now.
yeah.
What led to that? You see where these little roof systems are over the windows?
Yeah.
We kind of were sketching, what if that became railings and these became doors? That's where we were saying be like 1, 2, 3, 4. But same concept could prevail right, left, rear. We were kind of picturing them, and then they wouldn't be up in here. So,
but see, the other aspect of that is that we're trying to give it some appearance of a neighborhood building, which they're all shingled, they're all pitched roof. So taking and putting balconies on this, as opposed to having little pitch overhangs and the roof at the same time, which will conceal some of the roof equipment because it's going to end up to be a parapet of sorts, is I'm not in favor at this moment. Again, I'd have to see what it looked like. But at this point, I'm in favor of this direction, quite frankly, because it accents the center. It plays down the two ends, and it gives it a much more residential feeling. It's a different color than everything that's the two other buildings. It's got different character. And I kind of like the direction. So I would be interested to see how we solve the ends more than the backs, because the back has its own opportunity in the way it projects. I'd also, because we can't see it here, like to see a rendering of the side of the left-hand side and the front at the same time. So we get a feeling of all the projections basically on the building.
Can I throw out just one question without taking an
Sure.
opinion on it, but just to consider? What we have right now is very symmetrical, which may or may not be what we want. To some extent, that creates a kind of sense of massing because everything on the left is also on the right, and you sort of pick it all up. Sometimes you sort of, can vary what's on one side or the other and make it seem a little bit more like a row of houses or something. I don't know if that's a direction you want to consider or whether you like the symmetrical look, but I wanted to throw it out as a question before we got too far down.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but I think given the way the planning has been going and the mix, basically, we sort of were looking at that early on. In fact, the back is the front is the back. Before, what's in the back of the building was on the front. And someone suggested.
Right, and was more staggered. Some was poking forward and some was not, right?
Yes, someone suggested flipping it, and that's how we got to this, which then I realized that by flipping it, we have the center section that really projects out towards the street and can become the accent point. If you were to take, let's just say, for instance, take and flip the right-hand side with the back end as it was proposed originally, then you'd get a different character and you still have your mix. I don't think at this point anybody wants to fool around with the plan layout in any major way as you would propose. I think it's best to sort of stay with this and use the color as the defining, along with the projection basically as that, and any sort of landscape that basically can, work with this whole concept. So I'm not for, I guess I'm more for symmetry. How's that?
Sounds good, good. And then also just as you pointed out, remember that really only that middle section is going to be projecting forward. Everything, the gray, tan, gray on each left and right is going to be behind quite a lot of landscaping, I'm hoping.
Yeah, and so you got the canopy is the furthest point ahead. And then the two bays on either side. And then the turrets, well, let's call them turrets for a minute. Basically at the next level, and then the center window on the third floor pushes back. And at some point, the others basically match up with elements. That's why I was looking for the left-hand side and the elevation of the front, so we all get a better sense as to how this rounds the corner, but also how it sticks out on the front, and we get a 3D sort of understanding of what this thing's doing at this point.
Yep.
Peter, when you want to go back to the color switch again?
Yeah. That one?
Yeah, I think I think I'm more for the more yellow than the more
You
white.
like the yellow being more prominent.
Yeah, like the first one, I guess, or the second one, whatever it is.
I think it's the first one.
Yeah, I like it because the corners fade away a little bit more.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
I just don't want it to be too that yellow. I know you don't want to get in the colors here, Jim, but
Say that again, Tom?
I don't want it to be like a bright yellow. I know
Yeah.
sometimes these renderings, it's really hard to get match up the product that you're going to use to the
Yeah, it
to
is
fit
hard.
properly on the rendering. So
But this is sort of a brownish yellow, I mean, color, basically. I'm sure we can get something on a swatch, basically, so we're all agreeing on the same color. But the appearance of this seems right.
Pete, it's, I know you and I were looking at Hardy products. It's the Navajo beige, just so, we can put a color to it.
Okay, great.
What I was wondering when Ezra talked, you see the turret far right, far left. What if we were to drop the transoms there and bring those down? Would that, we should look at that because that might highlight this even more.
Well, generally in architecture, particularly older architecture, this third floor of a building was the servants level, basically, and the windows were always smaller.
Yeah,
And they weren't so accented. So, it would be interesting to see whether those clear story elements basically disappeared on the top floor, particularly on the ends.
yeah.
And would it give it a different, how much of a different appearance would it give it,
Right.
And that's sort of what you're showing on the white ends in the far left and far right, isn't it?
True. Yes, we've already taken them away.
Yeah.
We were doing that. We were exactly trying to do that to make this all read as the prominent building, and the other two in the wings kind of fading back as best they could.
Yeah. Anything else, Peter, that you've got?
No, that's what we've been working on the last couple of days. Like you're suggesting, coming as the more you look at it, you think of other things and other ways to adapt it a bit. I think I 100% agree. Getting the left looked at and how it can be broken is going to be really helpful. And then I know Elliot has a plan. He's started to sketch out the landscaping. That might be worth looking at now that we.
Sure. Not where I wanted to go, but since we're all here, and it looks like, at least architecturally, we've got a halfway decent direction. Sure, I will try and find him and share with him. If I can manipulate this damn thing.
Yeah. Maybe I have to hit stop share. That might help.
You're still disabled, Jim. Host disabled participant screen sharing. So as soon as that's up and ready, I can show the landscape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all right, let's see. Okay. You're on. Go for it, Elliot.
Here we are. All right. So this is the latest plan. And initially, let's just start with the front. I've incorporated that arced walkway connecting from the sidewalk. And both sides of that arced walkway are about 5%. This is 4.9, this is 5%. Still maintaining those steps up to the central entry point. I think this is a nice rendering that Peter did, and trying to highlight that would be adding some fastigiate or columnar trees that are going to take up the narrow space, but also highlight the building and also soften the corners at the entrance, which I think would be nice. We've added street trees, and we hope the town is amenable to adding those in the right of way, further creating that softening from the neighborhood across the street. So we have the taller deciduous trees across the front, and then we have a green space consisting of, these would be medium height shrubs, say 3 to 5 feet or so, or small. They could be crab apples or something like that. And then on the south side of this arced walkway, we have two groups of 3 trees here. They could be native trees like a heritage birch or something like that. But again, trying to get some vertical element in there and some softening of the building from across the street. And addressing this corner, Jim, you had a concern about the view from North Ave to this corner of the building. We've added 3 taller evergreens, so 10 to 12 foot evergreens, creating a group over there to soften this corner as well. And then moving over to the entrance area, I believe, I think this complies with the site distance requirement. I think we were right at the back of the sidewalk relative to pulling a car out and being able to see safely both ways. So I think this complies with that requirement. And addressing your concern about this facade of this elevation of the building, that's Chris's ramp right here. Entering here, go up, and then we come into the building at this point here. Again, adding some vertical element of, I've inspected out, but I was thinking fastigiate hornbeam, which is a nice tightly branched vertical tree would support some softening on that at least half of the building. We're kind of restricted because of the ramp configuration here. We don't have any real estate up against the building other than the accessibility ramp. We're still making this connection from the street to the ramp, which I think is important to maintain that. And then across the front, this is a buffering of evergreen, 12 to 14 foot evergreen screen. Obviously we have to maintain this, we have to keep this open, and we're I'm trying to maximize the amount of screening I could push toward North Ave without hindering that sight line. And for an added layer, I've added some foreground shrubs. So these could be hydrangea, they could be maybe some red stem dogwood or something like that, which would do well and create a nice contrast to these evergreen trees. Moving over to the Knights of Columbus side, again, we're taking advantage of the softscape where we can add some screening. We had originally had a fence along there. It may not be necessary if we add this screening there, or we may have it in tandem with the screening. We haven't crossed that bridge yet. But as we enter into the back of the site, this is our transformer here, or generator. I think it's transformer. And per your SketchUp model, you had some parking lot trees in here, and I've added them where I can, trying to be cognizant of the snow storage space as well. For the rear entrance, we've replicated the same arc. I think would just the way the building steps, it fits in nicely. And again, adding some trees to further highlight the building as far as its symmetry goes, and also add some softening to the elevation. And thirdly, the third tier of this landscape sketch is adding some native wetland plants in the edge here. I've created, instead of following the contour of the retaining wall, I just made it straight across, because you're gonna be reading the trees, from the building as a nice sort of edge to the wetlands. And I think it'd be nice to have it straight rather than kind of randomly following the contour of the wall. And then we've got some, maybe these are winterberry. Again, it's a native shrub that grows in wetlands, nice for the birds with the berries. And in the wintertime, it's prolific with red berries, which is also nice to look at during the winter, as long as they last. And then carrying the tree form around here, we'd use red maples, AKA swamp maples, which would turn a beautiful, brilliant red in the fall. They come out early as well. So this kind of encapsulates, at least vegetatively, the site all around the perimeter. I think that covers it.
Okay, great, thank you. So I like the front, except for the fact, I think, my concept I threw out was to recreate what's there with trees that are actually living and not dying on either side to blanken the right third and left third, but projecting out the entry. And I'm wondering whether we are covering the center too much and not allowing that to be predominant enough architecturally and grand enough so that you focus on that as opposed to those two sides. Does that mean, a few less trees on the street? And the other buildings on this edge, I think the street trees are on the inbound side of the sidewalk and not outbound edge. And so should this project continue that alignment on some sort along that edge? And should there be more trees on the right and left, particularly on the left, because I think there's quite a bit of property beyond what you've shown and beyond the edge of the paper, basically, that you've got here, the trace paper.
Mhm.
So back's fine, side's fine in my mind. The fact that you picked up, native species in the back to sort of blend in with what's going to be left there anyway. Nice concept. I think we have to watch the far right of the building. Once Peter basically deals with that face, are these trees going to be, are they going to be too tall, too big? I hate to say this, but are they going to affect the architecture? But we'll have to wait and see on that, whether that needs to be changed or kept as it is with whatever Peter comes up on that side. And I assume what goes on the right will go on the left, but the left doesn't have that shielding that one has. Do you think there's any, because our neighbor next door basically has one bloody big parking lot, and I don't know what they do about salting and plowing and everything else, but I assume that when they get a plow, they plow all the snow right up against the property line here. And if there's salt in it, is it going to cause some problems with the evergreens that you planted along that edge?
In this corner, up in the upper left?
No, far right.
Oh, I'm sorry, far right. Yeah, they're kind of sensitive to salt. Have to look up what trees would be less sensitive to salt.
I just assume that parking lot gets filled at times and they plow it in the winter, and whatever they put down is going to be in those snow piles. It's going to melt, and it may cause some problems to what we want as basically shielding of the site over time.
Well, maybe we address it by putting in some sort of a catchment area that is stone lined or something that's going to collect the runoff before it reaches the root system of the tree.
Yeah.
Of the trees.
Just keep it in mind, because I have a feeling, not knowing how they actually address it over there, it just seems a logical thing that they might do that.
Okay.
Tom?
I agree. I like the plan. I think it's a generous plan. And yeah, I would also add on those front street trees too. I wonder if they should be on the other side of the sidewalk for the same reason you're talking about right now, from the street salt and the plows, and if they'd have a better chance to thrive on the building side of the sidewalk.
I agree. It was just the concern to trying to build up that vegetative buffer and screen from across the street. So certainly they can go on the inside. This can be modified. Absolutely. These trees are 30 foot on center. That's fairly close. We could maybe make them, 42, 45 feet on center, but we'd only end up with two in either portion of that if we're going on the south side of the sidewalk.
So the walkway is the limit. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a combination then. I don't know. I don't know if it has to all be the same, if Jim wants it to be symmetrical coming down North Ave, but might be nice to have a little variation. But I would think they just survive better on the building side of the sidewalk, that's all.
Right, with that buffer of the sidewalk, that's definitely gonna keep things at bay as far as chemicals are concerned, and snow and ice.
Well, the first one on the right basically could move back into some of that patch, basically, and some of that material planting wise disappears. And then the next one, maybe it's on the corner between the sidewalk and the curbing, basically. So it's again on the edge of the sidewalk. And then there's one more that's maybe in portion of the arc, basically, and so forth, so on, right down. So it's the spacing maybe more like 40 feet. And in the middle, maybe the two trees that are in the sort of middle don't exist because we're trying to see more of the building entry
Yep.
type of thing. And then the next one sits inside that arc. And the last one basically goes down the slope going towards the wetlands or something.
Okay.
Just take a look at it anyway.
Can I throw other idea just to think about?
Sure.
Just in terms of Jim's idea of keeping our eye on the far right. The right-hand exposure, that big blank wall, I think you do have a problem there with that ramp, where it makes it hard to get a lot of landscaping in. Is there any chance of cheating, maybe those two parking spaces and making them slightly shorter? And then you get a little bit more of a landscaping area there to hide the ramp and the wall.
You just added two parking lots, two parking spaces, 2 meetings.
Yeah, no, not removing them, just sort of like making them a 1 foot shorter or something.
I mean, motorcycle parking, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, it's hard to tell how long these are and how much they all need to be that long, but can you make a space 1 foot shorter and still get a car in it, or is that not going to work?
We usually end up 1 foot, 1 foot width wise, not depth wise.
Yeah, but depth wise, I mean, they're long, aren't they? They're like 18 feet or something.
They're 18, those are 18 feet long along that row.
Yeah, so if those were 17, would that, I mean,
Well, we don't know.
just to make that.
We don't know, and Chris can tell us how much of a planting strip he actually has between the parking area and the ramp.
The ramp, yeah. I mean, if that's 2 feet, you could make it 3. Is all I'm thinking. But
Yeah, so right now it's a little bit in flux. I'm just I need to put my plan together with Peter's final plan to see what that final dimension is. It's probably going to be around 3 feet deep or so.
that might be enough to get something.
It's not gonna, no matter what, you're not gonna end up covering the wall or covering that side. I mean, what has been shown here with the 4 trees, certainly you have the opportunity to do something there. But it's going to impair, I think, Peter's design on that edge, but we need to see it, basically. We need to see how this all lays out on that edge, because for me, after solving some of the front, I think this is the deadliest side because the most exposed, but once you solve this side, you solve the other one. And the back, I think, has got enough character in it to actually come alive, just in
Yeah,
the
I
plan.
was just thinking any more green to cover that, because that's, I think, the butt end of the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jim, Chris Barrages here. Can I mention something about the Knights of Columbus property that you were talking about earlier?
Yes, if you have to, yes.
Yep. So they have an in driveway and an out driveway, and a very large island out front in between those two driveways. It's about 3,500 square feet in area, and that's all grass. And then there's parking all along our side of the property. So I don't think they pile snow there. I think the snow out front ends up in that island. or deep in their parking lot in the back, because it slopes down towards the wetland in the back.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we're gonna see snow piles along our property line.
Well, I think if nothing else, we'll protect ourselves, assuming that sometime management changes or something, that maybe something comes along that would destroy us. So whatever we select for an evergreen or whatever, I don't see as evergreen as an issue, except that we need to have something that's salt tolerant. And maybe it's a different thing, but that's good to know that that they probably don't want to lose any parking spaces, so they push it somewhere else. Not that that island they got in the front is well defined, but hey, that's their problem. But thank you. All right, so any other comments or anything that anybody wants to pass forward here to the rest of us?
Jim, one thing I'll say for next time, when we're looking at that facade on the parking lot side, I know you got to bring in an elevation so we can see what it looks like, but even if you could just sketch something there so we could see what it does look like when you're coming down North Ave from the train station towards the highway, just some view that we could look at, even if it's a hand sketch or something quick, with and without vegetation, so we can kind of see what we're looking at and how it fits in.
I think we'll leave off the vegetation for now, otherwise we won't understand the architecture. We'll apply it afterwards, but that's, like I said before, is the 3D rendering that sees the front of the building and the side of the building, particularly on this side, because it's probably the predominant one. And because the nights basically give a longer view, because there's nothing there.
Yep.
Otherwise, coming the other direction, you've got buildings and everything else in the way. So this is the one where you're like half a block away and you can see the whole damn site at this point. So it is critical.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see it from there.
Yeah. I mean, if Peter also can work on the back side as well, but I would say focus on the very side, but he may have to turn the corner all the way around to pull it together. But that should be the task, basically.
One other thought, and I can't quite get my mind around it, but on that ramp on the right, if it were oriented instead of in the front half of the building, if it were in the back half, same entry, same place to go in the door, but instead of going, in and to the right, you came in and to the left and then back. Would that allow you to screen the front corner rather than the back corner of the building, which is more visible?
The problem is that by access code, it's a public entry, all right? And so therefore it has to be accessible. If it was just an egress, it wouldn't have the same mannerism, basically. So any door that's public, whether it be the front, the back, the side, and people use it. And
I get that. I'm just thinking, instead of, like, right now, the ramp goes up towards the front and then back. But if you just did a mirror image around the middle of the building, so it's headed back where those 4 trees are, and you move those 4 trees to the front corner.
Oh, you're talking about the walkway. Oh, no.
Yeah, the ramp walkway that comes up from the parking area on the right. If instead of being like, it's as hard without being able to point, but you come in from the parking lot and you go to the right and then you do a U-turn, right?
Well,
If you're
I think you mean just flipping.
flipping it.
Just
Exactly.
180 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't, because then you could get those 4 trees in the front corner of the building rather than the back corner.
Yeah, but see, here's what, and Chris can confirm. What he's done basically is the walkway from the public walkway to that doorway is a sloped walkway up to the elevation of the doorway. And then you have to go down to the parking lot by a pair of stairs or by the ramp that he's got towards the parking lot.
I see, because the back is lower than the front. That's why this makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from, basically.
All right. Okay.
So flipping it I don't think works more. I think once we find out how much space we got at the edge of that ramp, we can also conceal that ramp. But we'll see, we'll see.
So Jim, for what it's worth, I could accommodate that.
Okay,
The wall that supports the ramp would be a little bit taller, but not much.
okay. When you
Well,
say
just
accommodate,
if it works, take a look, but don't worry about it too much.
well, I think the other thing is to look at for a moment is you've got this big wide open space between us and the neighbor. And towards the front, we've got a bunch of trees basically that act as a shield up against that front corner of the building. But we have no shield at the back corner, and those 4 trees at the back give the shield for the back corner, whereby the front corner is shielded by what's up in the very right-hand corner coming into the driveway and the parking area. So I'm not sure that, you need the shielding up the front because you've already got the shielding, and I'm not sure that we're going to lose the shielding in the back once we see how the architecture comes together, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a concept at this point. So then I think what I'd like to do is have Peter continue. Chris, have you had any conversations with Renault at all, or his staff?
Not yet. I want to make sure that we've got the final building footprint nailed down, and then we need to update the stormwater report to reflect that.
Yep.
And then once that happens, I'll forward that along to Bill's office for their review, and then go from there.
I don't think the footprint is going to change, short of some architecture beyond the edges, whether it be a bay window or a canopy or something like that. But this profile that Peter's come up with, I think is pretty safe for what you need, I believe, anyway.
And then you're happy with the layout of the sidewalks out front?
I like it, quite frankly. I think it's now in some ways more up to the, I could see, for instance, the sidewalk up from the sidewalk to the entry to the sidewalk might want to be a little more monumental to respect basically what Peter's proposed. So whether that looks like it's probably 5 foot, maybe 4 foot or something like that.
Yes.
Maybe it needs to be 6 or 8 or something like that. I think we'll work that out eventually, but moving a few trees around, but the scale of looping this walkway up and down, I think adds to the grandeur of this front entry, basically, very much so. I personally wouldn't change it. And what I heard from Tom was that he likes it too. So I wouldn't worry about changing, at least not from the subcommittee. And hopefully that's why we exist, so that when it goes to the board, they'll listen to us and agree. So whatever you can do to get that particular item off the menu would be great.
Okay.
I do have a meeting with Bill myself. It's more about talking to him about doing work on the public property. Not just this project, but one other. Because we like to see these projects basically beautify the neighborhood, and sometimes you've got to basically ease onto the public realm. So this is one of those cases where we'd ease onto the public realm. I would like to get a copy of maybe Jesse can get me copies of it today, so that I have a PDF record of it. That would be great.
Sure.
And so Peter, if you can work up the elevations.
Yep.
That would be good. As much as I didn't want to talk color, I like the yellow.
That's cool.
And the gray or whatever it is. I think that's about it. we're gonna want to eventually know what's on the roof, mechanical systems, and whether the parapet's gonna cover the view of them.
I got a
And
question for Chris. Chris, have you spec'd out the wall itself? Is that a Versalock or Versalock type wall?
So the wall that's shown is a large modular block like the one that Shea Concrete makes.
Okay, so on the left side, the side closest to the building, you have a 6-foot space to the wall.
That's right.
So,
That's the inside face of the wall.
okay, because I know a lot of these walls, you can kind of landscape over the cap. They make a cap with like a 45-degree angle. It comes down and you can actually put grass right over the wall, basically to get within a couple inches of the outer edge. So I didn't know if it was worth trying to steal a foot on that side, maybe shift the building over a little bit that way, or you get 6 feet there now, right?
Yeah, 6.5, it's 6.6 feet right now, and I think it's probably gonna be closer to 7.
7. And were we trying to get equipment over there, or is there any room there to move the building? Should we think about moving the building a couple feet that way, or are we too close to the wetlands?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the building setback from the wetland doesn't matter as much as the limit of work. I just want to be able, I think we all want to be able to take a lawnmower or a small piece of equipment back and forth without much trouble.
Yeah.
So the larger the strip there, the better.
Okay. Yeah, we do have access from the front too, though, right?
Absolutely. We have a lot of access from, a lot more access from the front, although it is a sort of sloping terrain on that side.
Yep. Okay.
and
Oh,
they're
no
prob-
problem. I was just thinking if we had another foot or two, that would help the ramp side, but if it's maxed out, if you feel like it's too tight there, then, stick with it.
I think he's left 3 feet there at this point for just maintenance purposes. Even
Oh, 3 feet on the left?
on the left, yeah.
I've got 6.5 right now.
Really? In
Yeah.
there?
I can tighten that up a little bit.
I guess you could, actually. I was thinking it was 3.
It's probably closer to 7 now with Peter's latest plan.
Yeah, we can landscape over the top of that wall. Were you planning on the wall coming up above the grade or rated grade? Or,
I mean, those details haven't quite been worked out yet, but typically the idea is that it comes up to the grade.
to the grade?
But I understand the wall system that you're talking about. I've seen that used in multiple places where, a portion of the top of the wall is just scooped out. And
Right.
it allows you to sort of fill in, with 6 inches of, topsoil and throw some seed down.
So that would give us a little more room to walk.
Besides the access around that left side, you also have to think about future maintenance and a ladder or something else going over there. You're not gonna get a giraffe over there to do the work on that side. It's gonna be off ladders, I would suspect, or staging or something like
Yeah.
that. So don't cramp yourself for the sake of a few feet on one side when you're gonna need it. Someone's gonna need it later on.
Yep.
All right. I guess unless anybody said anything else, we'll be, Peter, how long before you are ready for the next show and tell? And then cut it by a week.
Yeah. Do I have to answer that right at the moment instantly? Just wanted to get back with Steve and Andrew, and so we can block out, the next few days. We've got the holiday hitting in as well, right?
Oh, what holiday?
I know that one that we're not having. So if I could I can just answer everyone tomorrow. That would be great. I'll do an email.
Okay.
Thought. I just think we need a little time to talk internally about when we can devote some time to this. It needs some time, obviously, right? So, but I think having a direction, that's super helpful, because now we won't go off doing each side 4 different ways, that's definitely gonna save time. What were you hoping? What were you hoping to try and do something? What would be ideal? Let me ask that question.
Well, I was thinking latter part of next week, but that might not be possible. I wasn't gonna come to your house for the 4th of July.
Too bad. We've had some fun. All right. So I know, for instance, I believe Andrew is taking a day off after taking the 5th. So you're right. It puts us down to a couple of days. We have a couple of days this week, so left.
It might be the first part of the following week. I don't know.
Following. But let me, if you don't mind, if I could just get my team together, then we'll meet up tomorrow. Okay.
And I think if Elliot can basically look at this a little bit further and put another layer of trace on the top of this, that'd be good.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
So
Yes.
Jim, I'll go ahead and send you copies of everything that we've gone through now. I think you have, no, you don't have the Elliot's plan or what Peter was showing. So Peter and Elliot, if you guys could send that to me or just send it directly to Jim if you have his email address.
Yeah, since I don't think Chris has done any further stuff on the civil, I've got that from the zoning board and Peter's layout that was brought to the zoning board when he shrunk it building by 7 feet. So I don't need those. So I guess it's more about the elevations, concepts, basically, and the landscape, I think, at this point.
I can send it to you after the meeting. It's the packet that'll have it all in there, but
Okay, all right, that's fine. That's
okay.
fine.
I'll copy you, Jesse, when I do that.
Okay, sounds good. And
No
then
problem.
in terms of next steps, Jim, so I guess we'll wait for Peter and his team to let us know when they'll be ready to come back. We'll just try to set something up maybe for the 11th or the 12th. Are you thinking?
Let me look at my magic screen here.
It's the 13th, right?
Yeah, the next meeting's on the 13th. The night of. I guess we could meet on that day, that morning too.
That might, I don't know whether we want to have anything in advance of that for them or whether we want to, skip that one or what.
Yeah, that's an option too.
What's that?
I think Ezra was suggesting if we aren't able to have a meeting in advance of the 13th, maybe skip the meeting on the 13th. Is that what you were saying, Ezra?
I would, yeah, just making sure that we don't want to sort of rush the board with no time to review whatever's going to come out of the second meeting.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if it's just a check-in with them, that's fine, I'm sure. But, if we feel we've reached something, but they only have like 6 hours to review it, that's not very, I think that's not very fair to them.
Yeah, they usually want it on, they do want it on a no later than a Friday night, a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, so if we're bringing anything new, it needs to be done by the end of next week. So we might just want to say, let's meet the 11th, 12th, whatever. Tell the board the 13th won't work, but let's do the following meeting and come with a real package.
Now, what's our deadline though, Jesse? Because we don't meet again until mid-August.
It's sometime in September, I think, Tom. I'll have to go back and double check the date. But yeah, so maybe we should wait till tomorrow for Peter to let us know when he'll be ready. And if it's not going to be by the end of next week, then plan on maybe continuing the 13th and coming back in August instead.
Why are you saying the 13th?
That's the next time we're in front of the full board or scheduled to be.
It was just
Yeah, but
Wait.
the problem is if the 13th, then we need to get something to them on the 8th.
Right. Yeah. So if
That's
Peter's
what
not
I'm
able to
worried
So
deliver
I-
by the 8th.
I don't think we should, short of maybe a progress report, verbal progress report.
Mhm.
I don't think we ought to be showing anything.
Okay.
But I would suggest that maybe the 11th or 12th we'll have a better snapshot basically where we're at to report verbally on the 13th.
Okay,
So-
Works for us. We're pretty open both days, so that should give us enough time, so.
Yeah, so just, you guys let us know whether it's 11th or 12th. And then I guess our next shot is in August, unfortunately, for the full board. But we can have another meeting if we need to between then to tie things up,
okay.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
At this point. All right. Anything else? Anybody? All right, so Peter will get back to us. Andrew will
Yeah.
Andrew will tell Peter when he's gonna have the stuff.
There you go.
Sounds good.
All right,
Perfect.
we know who controls the office.
There's some truth to that. That's okay.
It's a little bit both.
All right, so thank you, everybody. We're gonna close the meeting of the subcommittee for the architect, the zoning board subcommittee for 596 North Avenue at
496.
what?
596, isn't it?
Nice.
596.
Sorry.
You were screwing me up.
Another project, Ezra, different project.
Yeah, you want something else we don't know?
Yeah, wait, is this Leominster or Wakefield?
Maybe there's something coming up we don't know about yet.
Not for me.
All right, so I'm closing the meeting at 4:37. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you around the 11th
Thank
or
you.
12th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.
Okay.